get them where they need to be as well too. If you had to say shining moments, because I like this, I like to highlight things that you did awesome. What do you think were 2 shining moments in your lesson?
I guess because this content, I'm still learning with it, so I think every year compared to last year, my knowledge is growing a little bit more. Because I know last year I was like, man, I do not understand. So I feel this year with like my knowledge, it's growing more, and I'm able to help the students more like with their questions.
Good. I like that. That's a good one. And I did see that a couple of times in your teaching in our lesson. So that was really good. One more shining moment that was just like, oh yeah, that was awesome. Made that lesson worth it.
Well, honestly, I think the sorting, because I wasn't gonna do it.
Okay.
I was debating on doing it, just because I didn't know like if it was gonna work with my time. But the last minute, I decided to do it, and I think it really worked out. And even yesterday, well, my afternoon classes, like they were able to understand and get the difference between them.
Awesome.
So I think that card activity.
I think that was a really good activity too. It was at a good time in your lesson to change things up and shake things up. And it was a good use of a check for understanding. And it was really good. So I really thought that. So in looking at this, you did a great job. Like I really enjoyed your lesson. It was really good.
Thank you.
I would 100% agree with you that your time management was spot on. Like you did a really good job of, okay, that bell rang, you got them started on that bell ringer, you set your timer and it was going, and that was really good. And it was to the minute. Your routines and procedures are really well established, like, which is good.
Thank you.
How did you get to that point?
I just like when I was doing my student teaching, and I was in this program and in UTEP where every year I had to be with a different mentor teacher, and one of them showed me this website that I use and like all the timers. It was during COVID, so even like during then, like he had his routines, his procedures, and so I don't know. I just like okay, like that's really good because I don't remember having this in high school. So.
No, and this is a great way to incorporate technology, and you're doing it. And so those were some of the really great strengths that I saw. Like I even wrote down here, you're integrating technology through the use of calculators, through your one screen, and you're also getting them onto Google Classroom. And so you're using a wide variety of it, and then you're also using quizzes. And so those are fun ways to engage your students, but still incorporating technology, which is really great. And so that's what I was saying, like, and your students even know that they're supposed to get going on these things. Like, you've set your class up and you've got your procedures down to a point where I wrote it down here in one of the groups. Your students were like, okay, let's get started on the bell ringer. What's the bell ringer going to be today? Like they came in and they were sitting down and they started talking about what that bell ringer was. So that's a really good thing.
Okay.
These are great things, and you've got yourself setting it up really great.
Okay.
So I would agree with you on those. And the group activity was cool. I did like that. I thought that was a really good activity. And like I said, it came at just at like 20 minutes. Yeah. So right at that 20-minute mark, which is a really good time to change things up, to like get up a change of pace, you had a really good, that's when you transitioned to that activity. And it only took you about 6 minutes. So that's great. I mean, that's a good little chunk of time. It gets them focused on that activity, and then they move on to that next one. And it was funny because you had some students that they disagreed with each other as they were sorting. but they were trying to figure it out and work it out on their own,
Mm-hmm.
to try to describe it while you were helping other students. And so, that's really good.
Thank you.
I really liked it. I thought it was a good thing. Another really highlight that I think was really fun. I did like how you modeled the example. I thought that was a good idea, because it helps with showing them what they can do and like breaking it down. So I thought that was a good idea, and I'm glad that you like doing that, because there's some people that don't do that. I'm like, no, you don't need it.
Yeah.
And mostly, what are you teaching?
It's mostly juniors.
Mostly juniors, and a few
Yeah.
seniors sprinkled in.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. Okay, because I could tell that you had that, so that was really good. They still sometimes need that modeling, especially when we get into like a junior senior class. You're like, okay, you guys should know this. It's just basic math stuff, but
They struggle with the
but they do, and they
basic
struggle with
math.
that, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So just thinking about your lessons, and you said you're learning in this. So what are some examples of how you relate? What are some examples related to how you model thinking for the students to help them with this? Now it's kind of an interesting question. I'm going to read it one more time. Okay. So what are some examples related to how you model thinking for students?
Like in general or in the lesson?
Either one.
Okay.
Either one. How, either from the lesson or how you do it in your class.
Sometimes I would give them like a question, either bell ringer, exit ticket, and I give them sentence stems. So kind of to put like their thoughts like all together. I don't know what that's but yeah, I think that, or I also I like walking around hearing the conversations. If I see it's kind of like off topic, or if they're going the wrong direction, I like redirect them, and I'm like, okay, no, I want you to think about this instead. So yeah.
No, those are good. And so I'll give you an example of something that I do.
Okay.
And so what I'll do is I'll take my kids through a scenario. Like, for example, my content, right? Somebody's injured, things like that. Okay, how do I approach this situation? With the knowledge that I've just taught, now how do I use that information? And what I do is I show them like my thought process, and I think out loud. And I walk them through how I would do it. Or when I'm reading and analyzing text, I'll do the same thing for them, and I model what they could do. And now you do this in part of when you're explaining the examples. And there's a couple of ways that you could do that, and I wanted to get your opinions on how you do that. So how did you come about your idea for showing them an example problem? So how did you do that? How'd you come up with that?
Well, some kids, even though they're juniors, they struggle with their very basic algebra so much. And they have trouble breaking down the variable, cause formulas, it's all letters. They're but math shouldn't be letters; it should be numbers. So that's why I have them I highlighted the formula, and then I try, okay, this is this, so they can kind of see. And some students get it, and others don't. They struggle so much with it. And I think at the beginning I wasn't doing that as much, but especially with my SPED kids and some other, I have to show the model. So I do it for them, but also I know everyone benefits from it. So, and that way, when they have a similar problem, like the next two problems, they were very similar. I already modeled how to do the question, so now they have that example, and it's easier for them to work on the other ones. So.
And that's really good. And so now, here's how we do that, kind of like that model.